and welcome to another edition of Huns History. I'm Hansel, and joining me tonight is current head coach of men's Huns program, Adam Scheidler. Adam, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, Hansel. How about yourself, man?
Pretty good. How's the weather 3 miles down the road?
Yeah, weather's solid. Actually, zero complaints right now. I mean, the inferno's coming, but so far
Sweet.
so good.
I was in your head picking up Chinese food earlier. I should have said hi. So
Yeah, I'll pick up.
so I definitely wanted to include you in this round of Huns history. I think it's important from your vantage point. For those who are not familiar with Adam Scheidler, who've been hiding around under a rock for the last few years, he is the current head coach, D1 head coach, and kind of overall head coach of the program. Adam's been an integral part to the Huns' success over the last year and a half, 2 years, and kind of led the men's club through the transition from the AER days, if you will, but also was a huge part in the Huns becoming a D1 powerhouse, and what eventually led to a national championship. So let's go back. Let's step back in time. Adam, you went to the University of Texas. I know Ty Landry was one of your coaches, who was also a Huns coach, and then you joined the team our first year of Division I in 2008, correct?
Yep, yeah, that's correct. So UT, and then played 2.5, 3 years up in Chicago with the Chicago Blaze, and then came back down and jumped right into it with the Huns.
Excellent. And I know you came on really looking to get that starting lock position, but you decided to just go for the starting 9 position and stepped in with a Wheezy as your fly half. I imagine.
Wheezy is my fly half, and still sticking around as the DOR, and I think that's still the smallest passing window I've ever thrown to in my entire life. You threw it 6 inches behind him. He did this weird pirouette. You threw it 6 inches in front of him. He just watched it bounce and tell you to F off. But, some bit of insistence to detail, I guess, makes it better. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know you had some key studs on that team, especially your open side flanker.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some hitters, man, and you were leading that. I think it was very few games where you weren't leading the poach count.
That's still my favorite thing to do. It's a lot easier in D3.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, D3 refs.
Yeah. I think it was even easier back then. Yeah, and old boys is just open season on the poaches.
Yeah, there was no gate. It was a lot easier.
Yeah.
So we had some great years. It was obviously a building program. We went from a Division II program to Division II-III to a Division I-II, and then had a separate club at that time for the Horde that you actually had to go SIP for the D3 program. But coming in, talk to me about some of those years. We went to playoffs several years. Talk to me about things you remember, good times, hard times, whatever part pops in your memory.
I mean, with all this extra time that we've got, you do kind of think about some of those things, and when I first hung them up, to me the things that just stuck in your head were those losses, like playoff losses and that kind of thing. But as I get further away from it, the things you remember are so much more people oriented. You know what I mean? And all the way from regrets with people to the positives with people to some of those fun, crazy parties as well, and all that in between. And as much as I am so driven by wins and losses, it's interesting with more perspective what you actually remember.
Absolutely. I think there was a great camaraderie that we can both agree that was happening between the players, and that cohesion really made our success happen. It wasn't just what was happening on the field. It was because people stuck around, people, like Brad and Angus and Will, and they really wanted to be part of that program. But, again, it's something you can probably see now as a coach in your D1 side, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, to maybe kind of connect those two is, I think one of the most memorable wins as a Hun was playing the Reds away, and the field was even worse and it was muddy. and we ended up going up by 2 points, and we got the ball with 6 minutes to go. And for 6 minutes, we just picked and goed in the mud with them bringing 10 guys in the ruck and firing back at us, and just picked and went as slow as possible until we just ugly game, killed out the clock and kicked it out of bounds and just lost and celebrated. But that was beating the Reds back then was a pretty big paramount for us as players. And that was like one of those like just different kind of grinder type games, to where this year, the first time beating the Reds in a while, was way more of a track meet, fast-paced game. The last game was a massive comeback, high scoring, just totally, different type of team, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely different style of rugby being played. So let's talk about that transition from player to coach. There was a couple years gap that you were out, and then one day, as you know, AER and Huns had decided to split, and we were getting our Division I side back, and we were trying to figure out what to do. You gave me a call. You said meet me at Red's Porch, and we talked about you coming on to coaching. Talk about that choice and that what brought you back.
Yeah. I actually find it fascinating how things are remembered, because it's always different. But I actually when I left rugby, I played for 13 years straight and did 15s and 7s every season without taking a break in between. And those last few years, I kept talking about taking a break and just kept getting pulled back in. And when I walked away, I wasn't sure I was coming back. I never made it to one of the games in the national championship run. I thought that was so cool that they did that, and I just was so distant from it. It just felt like I hardly knew any of the guys that were doing it. Didn't really feel that connected to it. But it was actually Matt Mitchell, who I was still working with, that got me reconnected with kind of talked me into coming back out. Met with you and had a great kind of reconnect with you at Red's Porch, and thought I was going to just come on and help some rookies and be the assistant coach and maybe teach a couple guys how to pass, and just got the fast track, for better for worse.
Yeah, that first year back was definitely a tough year. I believe we won one, tied two, but you stuck around, which is tough. And not only you stuck around, but the players, especially the key players that probably could have gone and played for another club because they had that sort of talent, decided to stick around, stick it out. Talk about that. What goes into that thought from your own vantage point, and from what you saw in the players?
Man, I think from across 19 years of rugby, minus 2 in the middle, that's some of the coolest just human events that I've ever been a part of. So we had one win that year. We had a whole bunch of guys that were coming up from D2 and had to fast track them into D1. Had me as a coach, but I only coached some 7s before. Coached the Huns one summer and the Valks one summer. But first time doing 15s. First time for a lot of guys playing up, brand new fly halves, teaching new guys in new spots and learning at the D1 level, which is hard for, I think, everybody. But to me, when that room decided to stay in D1, and then the fight that they then had that summer, and then to come back and to have a winning record right after a lot of guys were saying we should be in D2, to have a winning record in D1. And to me, that was the credit to the players, of the guys that said, no, we want to be here. Because there was a lot of whispers of, now let's take the easy route, go down, play D2, and let's just go clean up and let's go win a national championship D2. You start hearing that kind of chat, and that wasn't something I want to be a part of. But, I understand if guys have that view. But I thought it was so cool of the core guys that stuck in, dug it out, and then turned themselves around from a one-win season to a winning season, which in 1 year I thought was even more remarkable of a change than I could have even hoped for or shot for. I thought it was real cool.
I'll back that up. Sitting in that back room in Nash and Bevy during that meeting, where the players, not us, not administrators, the players decided to stick it out and stay D1, was the first time I felt honestly old, because I felt proud.
Yeah.
I felt proud of the guys for sticking it out. And I remember the choice, when we made that choice to go D1, and the way I felt as a player to really take that leap and to know what we were walking into and to know the type of teams we were going to play, for those guys to make that decision and then not only do that, but be successful the next year. Very powerful. Very proud of that group of guys.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, being right there with those guys, when you lose 7 games like that, and some games you lose by 50, 60, 70, and you really just get pummeled, and then you make the choice to go up and say, hey, I can win at that level. I mean, the amount of just heart and courage that takes, and then to really go and do it with the execution of the whole thing, as I think those guys gave themselves a gift that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives,
Absolutely. So you talk about 19 years, you talk about, 15 sevens. That's a lot. And you talk about being the leader on the field. You show up, guys wait for you to show up. If you don't show up, people are kind of lost at practice. So talk about, for aspiring coaches, especially out there, for kids or young men out there wanting to take that leadership road. How do you manage that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing is to manage expectations. So just be ready that, like, if you're not ready to quit once every 2 weeks, you're probably not throwing your entire heart into it. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be the roller coaster ride of things being really, really difficult to the point where you even question why you're there. And I think that's just true for anything that you just get incredibly passionate about. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of people necessarily talk about that, but you find when you set expectations high for yourself and for other people, and then when you miss, it can be like breaking. It can feel like it breaks you, right? And to me, I think if you come in knowing like, hey, it's going to be like that, then for one, I think just that allowance, I think, goes a long way. So when you're like, oh yeah, I knew it's gonna be rough. I knew this road was gonna be hard. I didn't think it would just be, oh, show up and I won't care and I'll just be here at 7 o'clock and put in my time in, no big deal. I mean, if you come in thinking that, the time you put in will never add up. It'll never be worth it in my mind. So I'd start with that. I think it's always good to talk with guys. I one of my favorite stories was talking to Kirk, and in that rough year, I think it was the back end of that first year, I talked to Kirk. He finally came out to a game, and I was admittedly complaining about how difficult this other player was. I won't mention his name, Aaron Bone, but he was. I was talking about just how challenging the guy is to talk to, and Kirk looks over at me and goes, "Karma's a bitch, isn't it, Adam?" I was like, it was just a good reminder how full circle it is of I wasn't that easy to coach, and it's not like I didn't give coaches the same kind of hard time that came back to me, and something about that just felt kind of therapeutic, that this is kind of evens everything out for some reason or another, just kind of passing it forward.
For sure. You reap what you sow. That's absolutely true. I'm experiencing that with a 7-year-old right now.
Sure. Yeah.
So what's keeping you in the game? What do you have looking forward to? What's on the horizon after, we hopefully get past the COVID stuff? What's going on in the future?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the thing that keeps me going is the kind of exciting game that just the guys are playing. I mean, as low as that first year was, the highs of this third year were pretty up there. I mean, like that comeback against the Reds was something just even as a fan was just cool to see, and the kind of level and talent. And there's this really interesting thing when because to me, from my early vantage point, when about probably half the season in, was really thinking about building a program where the players, you keep trying to pass off more and more onto the players to where the players run the show, and they run it more and more each month. It's not an easy thing to pass off, but that's what you go for. And this season at practice, when we split backs and forwards and the backs were just able to run themselves and the forwards had enough guidance over there where they were running themselves, and the guys were just taking it upon themselves and just starting to, you could see they were running a show and not just goofing off, but really wanting to get better and had enough initial direction to go carry it on. to me, that's rewarding enough to keep coming out, to where you pretty much try to coach yourself out of a job is my thought, to where those guys own it and those guys are doing it. And it's not just me barking at them, it's them turning that passion into knowing how to improve each week.
Awesome. Well put, man. Well, it is Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, thanks, man. Same to you.
Yeah, to take us out, do you want to give us your best grito?
No.
Come on.
Man, that's a Mike Montgomery thing, man. I don't even have that in my repertoire. You me give this all right. uh that was really
That's
bad,
good, man. That's good.
That's the best white guy I got.
Yeah, you're all good.
Yeah.
You're from Austin.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
right.
Well, Adam, thank you for joining us. And thank y'all for joining us for Huns History. Look forward to doing this again with other people. Keep it up, Adam. We really appreciate the job you're doing for the club. Up the Huns.
I appreciate you, Hansel. Thanks, man.